Alright guys, as I said in a previous video, I haven't been around for a while, and I just want to do a video where I catch up and talk to you guys about 2023 movies that I've seen, some that I've liked, some that I didn't like. I've been hitting the movie theaters quite often, and yeah, I just want to talk about some of the movies I've watched. First one up is Close. This is a movie I believe is from Belgium, I think. A24 movie, international film, and I can't really talk about this movie without spoiling it. It's about a kid who has a really good friendship with another kid, and we see how that friendship in the youth develops. Really hard talking about this movie without spoiling it. The movie kind of starts off, and you have these friends, these two 12-year-olds, they're really close. Even a little too close. Some might even say they're experimenting with a little romance there. A lot of speculations that these two kids might be homosexually attracted to one another. That's what the kids around say. The movie doesn't really go into specifics as to what their relationship really is. It's more of a slice of life, even though I really hate using that term because it's thrown around so often and it doesn't mean shit. Every movie is a slice of life. Stories are in everyone's life. What does slice of life even fucking mean? Yeah, I just recommend this movie. Child performance is one of the best child performances I've seen in quite a while. Really good story, very heart-wrenching. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I promise I'll give more thorough reviews for the next movies. It's just this one, it's like you can't fucking talk about it without the fucking big fucking glaring thing. I don't know. Next movie, Shazam 2. This movie was ass, man. I really like David F. Sandberg as an individual. He seems like a really nice guy. I am a subscriber to the Pony Smasher YouTube channel. He also released these interviews on Film Courage. If you guys haven't subscribed to Film Courage or haven't heard of this YouTube channel, it's a really good YouTube channel for aspiring filmmakers. Anyway, yeah. This movie is ass. It's complete ass. I don't know what happened. It seems a little harsh. I know. It's ass. I hated this movie. And I like the first Shazam movie a lot. The first Shazam movie reminded me a lot of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. They're fun, they're cheesy, they're campy, you know what you're getting into. But the threats feel really real, and the horror moments are what shine in that first Shazam movie. Just like in like the Doc Ock scene in Spider-Man 2, there's a lot of those kinds of moments in Shazam 1. And they play with the premise really well. It's about a kid who can become an adult. What does he do? He cracks open a couple of brewskis. He goes to the strip club. Basically everything I did when I turned fucking 18, you know? Ha! And I still do it. Oh no, that's not good. Yeah, so that's what I like about the first Shazam movie. It was a very simple story, and it was much needed in the DC library. Just like a fucking simple story. Because at the time, we were getting movies like Batman vs. Superman and Justice League and just pow pow, crashy crashy, pow pow. And that Shazam movie was such like a breath of fresh air. It was like, oh, okay, it's big with a superhero. Whew, okay, the movie actually has a premise, a good hook. Unlike these crashy superhero movies. But what's ironic is that Shazam 2 became a said crashy movie. It's so bombastic, it feels like an episode of Power Rangers, and it has what I call the aliens problem. A lot of people like the movie Aliens by James Cameron. I'm not one of them. And the reason why is because you take this very horror premise of Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien is very atmospheric, and there's just this alien crawling around a spaceship, terrorizing people, you know? And then, what do in Aliens? They introduce 20,000 aliens and 20,000 people with machine guns, and it's just, oh, come over here, you son of a bitch. And a lot of sequels do that, where they just take what worked about the original movie and just crank it up too much. Another movie like that is one of the Jaws sequels, I forget which one, just like had a bunch of Jaws in it, where like Jaws was just one shark, boom, 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 and now there's like 20 sharks, like brum, 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 brum. Shazam does the same thing. It's like the thing that made Shazam so unique is that you have this one kid who can become an adult, And now everyone in the orphanage can become an adult. It's not all that interesting to me. It kind of wears the novelty down. And I'm still uncertain as to what Shazam's powers are. He just feels like Superman to me, which is not all that interesting. A lot of fan service, which I hate fan service. I'm not a fan. So whenever I see fan service in a movie, I'm completely numb. When Wonder Woman shows up in this movie, I was like, that was my reaction. Because I didn't like the first Wonder Woman movie, I didn't like Justice League, and I didn't see Wonder Woman 2 because I hear it's bad. So when Wonder Woman shows up, I just had a very neutral reaction. I'm not necessarily attached to Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman. The villains are bad. Helen Mirren is just phoning it in, obviously. Very good actress. Still hot. Just phoning it in. Lucy Liu, same thing. Good actress, just phoning it in. Everyone was phoning it in. The other thing that kind of suspends my disbelief is Shazam acts like a dumbass. No one acts like that unless they have an underlying medical condition. That's how I'll put it in the most respectful way possible. Yikes, alright. Yeah, and it's weird too because the person who plays the young Shazam, he's like grown now. So he's like, I'd say he looks like about 18 in my opinion. An 18-year-old doesn't just grow up to look like Chuck, you know? It's like you're suspending the disbelief. In the first Shazam movie, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a 12-year-old going to become a 40-year-old, so yeah, I can kind of buy that change of actor. But here I don't buy it, just because, like, the kid went through puberty. And the performances are very different as well. The kid actor acts very mature, and Chuck, I forget his fucking name. I'm just going to call him Chuck because he's in the TV show Chuck. But yeah, he acts very immature. And it's almost like David F. Sandberg said, okay, yeah, we need to buy that these two characters are the same person. So you act very mature because you're young, and you act very immature because you're old, and hopefully you'll meet in the middle. But it just like fucking crossed completely like that. I like David F. Sandberg as a person. I haven't been fond of most of his movies. I didn't really like Lights Out. I didn't really like his Annabelle movie. I really liked Shazam, and then I really didn't like Shazam too. Yeah, 4 out of 10. Was not a fan. It's a bit of a mess of a movie, and I think David F. Sandberg himself realizes that this is maybe not his wheelhouse. He kind of, when the movie came out, it was a whole fucking disaster when this movie came out. First of all, it came out that The Rock meddled with the script. Then Zachary Levi complained about it. And David F. Sandberg basically just said, I think I'm done with superhero movies, which is the most David F. Sandberg way of saying, I'm done with this shit. Yeah. So, yeah, but going forward, I just want to see David F. Sandberg bring the scale down. You know what? I'm one of those people who didn't like Lights Out. I'm not in the majority. A lot of people like that movie. So if you can just go back to your horror roots maybe, or maybe experiment with another genre, but just bring down the scale a bit, you know? I feel like these big fucking crashy movies aren't quite his thing. The next movie is a Canadian independent movie, You Can Live Forever. I went in thinking this movie was gonna be ass. Basically, my friend Jackie, he always gets tickets to go to these Q&A screenings in Toronto, and the directors or sometimes the cast or whoever will be there. Last month or a few months ago, I had an opportunity to see Babylon, and Damien Chazelle did a Q&A, which was fun. But it's not always going to be a big bombastic Hollywood movie. Sometimes it's the little independent movies. But I'm going to talk about them. Yeah, I actually like this movie a lot. That's the crazy thing. I went into this movie and I was like, I'm gonna hate this. It's just not my wheelhouse. It's not my taste. It's a romantic lesbian movie with the Jehovah Witnesses. It's a Canadian independent movie. This sounds like a snoozer. But you know what? We had tickets and I'm like, you know what? At the very least, I'll get some good shut-eye. No, that's not what happened. I stayed awake throughout the whole runtime of the film. No, it sounds like I'm undermining this movie. This is actually a really well-made movie. And the thing that really makes this movie great It's a very small independent movie. Go watch it if you can. If you live in Canada, you can maybe catch it in a theater. Probably not, but you can probably get it on streaming. But what makes this movie truly great is its subtlety. And that feels so fucking good because I saw this movie coming off the heels of doing like an Oscar movie binge watch, where Oscar movies are void of subtlety. You know? Don't you get it? I'm gay! There's none of that in this movie. I forgot to talk about what this movie is. This is a love story about a girl who falls in love with another girl, but the other girl is a Jehovah's Witness. They're pursuing a homosexual relationship. Jehovah's Witness are really against that shit. The two characters are Jehovah's Witnesses, but one is kind of distanced herself from the Jehovah's Witnesses, kind of views that shit as lame. But then she's kind of like forced to tag along to this mass or whatever you call their little rituals. And she meets the other girl there and they fall in love. And so you have one that's very devout, well, at least her family is very devout, and one that's kind of just like meh. But they end up connecting with one another. And that's what I think is really cool about this movie is how subtle it is. They're Jehovah's Witnesses in the movie, but they're not like your Hollywood Jehovah's Witnesses. What's that you said about homosexuality? I won't allow no gays in this household. None of that shit. Very subtle. These feel like real people. And because of that, I bought into this romance a lot more than your traditional Hollywood forbidden romance kind of film. I thought this movie really worked because of that. Putting that aside, great performances. It's a low-budget movie. There's some shots that kind of look a little cheap. You have to go in expecting that. It's not going to look like a fucking Call Me By Your Name beautiful movie. It's really made on the lower budget. But what they did with their budget really works. And yeah, I just really felt invested in these characters because they're sympathetic towards one another. They communicate with one another. There's no point where I feel like one of the characters does a really dumb decision. And again, I'm not one for the romance movies. And I'm not one for the forbidden romance movies. But here is one that especially worked well. I'm actually quite flabbergasted at the fact that I'm enjoying this movie as much as I did. It's a really well-made movie. Horrible title, by the way. I don't know who fucking came up with that shit. You Can Live Forever. Yeah, they should have fucking come up with another name. Next, we're going from the low-budget indie Canadian film to a big Hollywood movie starring a Canadian. John Wick Chapter 4, or as I like to call it, John-based Chapter Kino. Holy shit, is this movie a hell of a ride. I saw it twice in the theaters. That's how fucking fun it was. It's just perfect. There's never a dull moment in this movie. It reminded me of the first Kill Bill movie, where it's just every second goes by, there's like no fucking fat on the bone, you know? It's just meat. It's just meat. You're fucking eating the meat. All the characters are really cool. I forget the character's name, but the guy with the dog, who's a sharpshooter, he's really cool. Fucking Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen steals it in this movie. He's fucking awesome. I fucking love Donnie Yen in this movie. The action is great. What works, and you know what? I went in a little skeptical about this movie because when a director stays on a franchise for too long, you know? I don't like saying the word franchise. I feel like Ray Kroc. Franchise! When a director stays on a series for too long, we see it with Christopher Nolan with The Dark Knight Rises, Sam Raimi with Spider-Man 3, etc. Bryan Singer with the X-Men movies, X-Men Apocalypse. When a director stays in a series for too long, there lacks that voice. That voice kind of goes away after a while, and it becomes a bit more routine. And I was worried going into this movie that it would become that. Because it was the same director from Chapter 1 all the way to Chapter 4. It's the same director. Not the case at all. This feels like a complete breath of fresh air. This feels like the biggest John Wick movie. The cinematography is better than the previous movies. The stunts, I don't think Keanu Reeves is as mobile as he was in the first two John Wick movies. He's getting up there in age, obviously. They make up for it. They have Donnie Yen, who's still very acrobatic, and they have these set pieces that are very fun to watch. As for the cinematography, that fucking ceiling shot where they do the fucking angle like at the end of Taxi Driver, where it's like the camera's on the ceiling and you just see like John Wick with his fucking flame gun fucking killing fools left and right. It felt so good to just watch a motherfucker kill people in completely violent ways. I feel like Hollywood doesn't like making violent movies anymore. And you're gonna be like, Paul, why do you like violent movies so much? To which I say, because it's so much fun, Jan! Get it! Yeah, no, it's just a fun movie all around. Car chases are cool. Gun fights are cool. A lot of people say it's repetitive. I got that with John Wick 3, where I thought the action just felt like repetitive after a while. It was a lot of John Wick clinging onto a person, falling down, flipping them over. A lot of the same moves. I didn't get it with this movie. I felt like everything was very well balanced. There's always a different set piece. Like I said, there's the moment where he has the flame gun, the fight on the stairs, which felt very different from everything that came previously. The scene where we're introduced to Donnie Yen and he's like putting devices or like those doorbells all around the room, that felt different. The movie always introduces a new element to the action that keeps it fresh. And that's what I think really works about this movie. It's a 2.5 hour long movie. Doesn't feel its length whatsoever. It goes by like that. It's amazing. Certified dank, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say about John Bay's Chapter Kino. Next, another Canadian independent movie. Now that I live in Canada, the reason why I'm watching all these indie movies is because I lived in Maine, which is not very populous, for those of you who don't know American geography. So when you live in Maine, all you get exposed to are Marvel movies, big budget movies, Fast and Furious. So that's all I had in my cinema. Now that I live in a big metropolis like Toronto, I get to fucking watch whatever I want. And I'm an old man, and loud noises give me a headache. So sometimes I'll just watch a good old Canadian indie movie. I like movies. Again, this is a movie I got to see a Q&A with the director. I didn't like this one as much, to be honest. There are some moments that I enjoyed. I was entertained, but I was kind of frustrated with the movie simultaneously. What really didn't work for me in this movie... Oh, again, I have to explain the premise because not many people know what I Like Movies is. This kid, he's a bit of a brat. He's your typical kid, like me growing up. He just liked fucking around with a camera, you know? And he gets a job at a video rental store. And this kid is very immature, but he uses this job as a opportunity to become more mature. Yeah, I didn't like the movie, and I think the main thing I didn't like was the lead character. Not talking about the performance, I thought the performance was good. I just thought the character was a little... He was a dick. And I kept thinking of the movie Superbad, where Jonah Hill, he's a dick, but he's a funny dick. Where the girl says, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Haha, funny thing about my back is it's on my dick. And I'm not saying he had to be quippy like that, but I felt like I just hated this character way too much. And when there's a character that's hateable, you have to give something to the audience for them to cling on to. Like Jonah Hill, he's an unlikable character in those Superbad movies. Treats McLovin like shit. But he's charismatic, so an audience will follow his journey. The problem I had with this character is nothing made me want to follow his journey. I viewed him as a selfish fucking brat, and I didn't like him. And yes, he has funny moments throughout the movie, but they didn't make up for how fucking much of a dick he is. Like, he destroyed everyone around him, got people fired because of his incompetence, treats his mother like shit. Guys, if you've watched my YouTube videos, I hate movies where the kid treats their parents like shit. Because I grew up in a Middle Eastern household. Look at the hieroglyphics, okay? I grew up in a Middle Eastern household. If I talk to my mother like that, she would have fucking reached for a wooden spoon and fucking smacked me. So I can't relate to fucking white kids treating their parents like shit. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, this guy is really mean to everyone in his surrounding, and they redeem him in the end of it. He even makes an unwanted sexual advance at some point. But yeah, it's just he was a bit too hateable for me. And when they do redeem him at the end, they don't do a full redemption arc. They do like the beginning of a redemption arc. But I even felt that wasn't merited because I didn't want to see this kid succeed. Yeah, I just didn't like the character. And they give him excuses throughout the movie as well. They say, oh, one of his parents passed away, his father passed away. Still not an excuse for me, you know? My mom passed away when I was young. You don't see me fucking going to people in wheelchairs like, oh, take that, you fucking son of a bitch. Yeah, alright. That's what I have to say about I Like Movies. Next, final movie on this list, Air. This movie is appropriately titled because just like a fart in the wind, it fucking air. That's my joke for today, ladies and gentlemen. I actually read the script of this movie prior to watching the movie. It was on the Blacklist. For those of you who don't know the Blacklist, it's a list of unproduced scripts that you can just read. And I read it. It was a really good script. My compliments to the writer, I forget his name, but I remember reading the script, and the moments in the script that were very hard-hitting and poignant were very hard-hitting and poignant in this as well, and that was mostly due to the script. Excellent script. So fucking well done. Sometimes when I read a script, I'll be like, okay, yeah, and like I'll gloss over, and then I'll fucking grab my phone and be like, so what's going on the fucking Instagram? This one I was locked. Such a good script. I suggest you read the script. You can get it online probably. As for the movie, directed by Ben Affleck, hasn't directed a movie since Run All Night or whatever that fucking movie was. I didn't watch it. But I'm not a big fan of Ben Affleck as a director. I like The Town. I like Gone Baby Gone. I don't like Argo. And for some reason, Argo was the best picture winner of the three. Yeah, I find his style to be very bleh. Not much to it. When I was reading the script of Air, I was kind of picturing like an Adam McKay style, just very fast-paced, very quirky. The characters were very quirky in the script, and they're very quirky in the movie as well. It's just like a very fast-paced, like boom, boom, boom business. Let's go. We don't have much time to lose. There's a fucking race against the clock. We don't have much time to lose. So when I read the script, I was completely hooked on it. And in the movie, it kind of feels like a slog. A lot of it is the performances, and I don't think that the performances are bad. They're miscast. When I picture who the CEO of Nike is, he's kind of like this long-distance runner, hippie vibe, a bit of a Steve Jobs character. I didn't get that with Ben Affleck. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who walks around the office barefoot. And there's some people, like a Christian Bale or a Denzel Washington, they have that kind of fucking chameleon-like ability to act, where like you see Denzel Washington, he's Roman J. Israel Esquire, he's the equalizer, he can go from being like a goofball to a serious badass. Same thing with Christian Bale, he's the fighter, his character in The Big Short are completely different characters. Ben Affleck doesn't have that chameleon-like ability. He's not a bad actor per se, he's more of a movie star in my opinion, more than an actor. And I do like him in movies like Gone Girl, where he's like very specifically cast in the movie and he's like good with the rules of that character. But he's not the kind of guy who can just go on a whim and play anything to me. And I felt like he was miscast in this movie. Same thing with Jason Bateman. I don't find his character to be all that memorable. In his portrayal, that is. The one character that does fit in all of this is Matt Damon. He gives the best performance of the movie, and he really anchors the film. I'm gonna spoil the movie, I guess. The part in the movie that I remember when I was reading the script, and the part that fucking resonated to me, that's the part where Matt Damon is fucking face-to-face with Michael Jordan. He's like, listen, I know my shit. I'm gonna tell you exactly how your career is gonna go. And you just get a highlight reel of Michael Jordan's career. The passing of his father, him moving to baseball, coming back to the NBA. That was like such a fucking hard-hitting scene, and it really worked in this movie. But I just find Ben Affleck's style to be so muted. and very dry. Not much voice to his style. Not only that, but I feel like a couple of roles were miscast. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Air. I wanted to like it a lot more, and I think in the hands of a different director, it could have been a really special movie. But as it sits now, it's not. It's kind of your run-of-the-mill movie. The material really elevates it, though. So yeah, those are the movies I saw in 2023 so far. I plan on watching a lot more. What's the best movie of 2023 you've seen so far? Comment below, let me know. I want to hear from you. Take care, folks.